I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk about the Lowell Forward Master Plan. This is something that the Department of Planning started thinking about over 2 years ago, and it's taken 18 months of really hard work to get to the point where we are today. And so I'm very pleased to be able to share details with you about what our community's vision is for the next 10 to 20 years. So although there are many planners in DPD that love creating plans, we don't go through this whole process just to create a plan. The state lays out what it expects from communities for their comprehensive master plan, and so Lowell is not the only community that has a master plan, but the Lowell Forward Master Plan is unique to our city, and it's what Lowell wants to look like as the community continues to grow. This plan includes a vision for our community. It has goals, objectives, actions, and strategies to achieve those things, and it strikes a balance between pragmatic and realistic action items and larger goals that will push our community forward and make Lowell a better place for all of us. So tonight I'll be presenting an overview of the plan itself, but this does not mark the end of the process. Tomorrow, the draft of the plan is going to be available online, including executive summary translations in Khmer, Portuguese, and Spanish. You'll be able to find the link on the city's website, and we'll share information on our social media accounts. Hard copies of the plan itself will also be available here in City Hall in room 51 in the Development Services office. So this is essentially going to open our public comment period, where we're going to ask people to take the time to review the plan, send us feedback, and after 2 weeks, we'll close the public comment period, we'll collect that feedback that we received, make any edits we need to make to the plan, and then bring it forward to the planning board for their vote and approval. Assuming the planning board is going to vote positively for the plan, it will come back in front of this council again for a formal vote of approval and adoption, and that's when the real work begins. So Lowell Forward is our new master plan, but it is not the only plan that this community has. So this planning process actually started with our consultants gathering existing plans that we have done and plans that have been completed by our community partners, and have them do a thorough review of those plans, what has been achieved, what's left to achieve, what we may want to leave behind, and what is still relevant and important in those plans to the community. Consultants also try to get an in-depth understanding of Lowell. If we want to build off of where we are and move forward, we need a fundamental understanding about what our community looks like today. And so our consultants looked at things like census data to understand things like how many people in our community are cost burdened with their housing. They worked with city staff to understand development trends in the community, like how many residential permits have been pulled, what type of housing is being built, and where that housing is being built. In addition, they look at who's living in Lowell today. How old is our community? What is the ethnic breakdown of our community? How many people in Lowell are renters versus homeowners, for example? And all of this baseline information helps us establish a solid picture of Lowell today, and we bring that baseline information with us as we reach out to the community and ask them how they see Lowell and what they want to see in our community moving forward. I cannot stress enough how much the staff in DPD advocated for a thorough community outreach process to inform this plan. The last master plan was done 100% in-house, and it was a very good plan, and it included a lot of community voices. But I think as we looked at our own staff capacity and recognized that if we wanted to increase the community input, we would need added capacity. And so DPD staff successfully secured grant funding from the state to add to funding we had available from the city to help cover the cost of bringing in a consultant team for this plan. By having consultants on board, we were able to do much more community outreach than ever to inform this plan. And in addition to having information online, putting out surveys, having public meetings, we were able to fund the hiring of a local community organizer and brought together a master plan steering committee. And our community organizers here in the rear. Thanks, Mercy. So during our community outreach, we didn't just host meetings and ask people to show up. Our community organizer, Mercy, went to numerous community events, hosted focus groups, had community conversations with important stakeholder groups, and that means that this particular plan has input from people across the community, diverse cultural groups, youth, seniors, religious institutions, institutional partners, volunteer, and nonprofit organizations. DPD staff and our consultants included kid-friendly tables and activities at our public meetings. We went to people where they were at community events, where we tabled and asked people for their feedback. We provided translated surveys and live translations at our public meetings. The team we have here in DPD today is one that cares deeply about community outreach and equity, and it is due to their commitment that I believe this is one of the most inclusive plans this department has ever created. Early on during our internal staff discussions, and very quickly when we started our community conversations, it became clear there were topics that consistently rose to the top. Those common themes have become the foundation of this Lowell Forward plan. Sustainability and resilience. Lowell must plan now for how we will grow in the future. And that means we have to proactively plan for things like dealing with climate change and mitigating the impact of severe weather. Proactive maintenance. I know that this is a topic that is very important to this particular council. It's really great to have nice things like new parks and walkways, but how are we ensuring that we're maintaining them? And how do we manage our staffing to best address our varied maintenance needs? Accountable government and community stewardship. This is a very thorough plan, one that includes a number of action items for departments across the city, but it also includes a variety of roles for our community partners. A successful master plan will never be achieved by a planning department alone. Everyone has a role in making it possible. Innovation and creativity. As the city prepares to celebrate its bicentennial, it's good to remember that Lowell wouldn't be Lowell if it hadn't been for a handful of businessmen who went to Europe, took their ideas, brought them back here, and created those textile mills. And many years later, followed by a congressman who had the crazy idea of encouraging the federal government to create a national park here to celebrate that textile history. And now we're home to a university with cutting-edge technology and one of the largest artist communities in the Northeast at Western Ave Studios. The legacy of people pushing boundaries has cemented itself as a core principle in this community. Today, Lowell is full of creative artists and entrepreneurs, and sustaining the energy that they bring to our community is important, as is finding ways to keep them and their ideas here in the city. Communities always have to prepare for change. It's inevitable. Lowell today is not what it was 20 years ago, and it's our job to ensure that as our community changes, that it changes for the better, that we have set ourselves up to grow and change in ways that work for our community, that years from now, people will look back at this time and they'll believe we made the right decisions to help Lowell. I want to be clear that planning for growth, though, isn't just about thinking where we can stick a new building in a vacant lot. It's about much more than that. It's about how that growth can impact our community's fiscal sustainability. How can we balance the need for growth, the need for more housing, and the need to provide more services to our residents? All of these things are interconnected, and planning for growth will ensure that we don't find ourselves reacting to it in the future. Some specific ways Lowell can plan for its future growth is to focus on growing and activating our downtown. We have taken some positive steps in this direction recently with things like the DMU parking changes, our successful pop-up retail program on Market Street, and the commercial vacancy registration program that this council voted for recently. But there's more work to do. We can build on our unique strengths. Not every community has a Cambodia town, or a four-year university and a community college, or a professional women's hockey team and arena football, or miles of canals and 2 rivers. So these are things that make Lowell special, and we need to tap into those unique characteristics, celebrate them, continue to build off of them, and improve them. Lowell still does have areas where there are significant opportunities for growth, areas where building and land are underutilized, areas where we would benefit from greater density and a greater concentration of associated businesses. So with our vision and principles in place and our recognition that planning for growth is critical, this plan breaks down a number of specific areas of focus. These topics all came directly from our conversations with members of the community, and I'm sure that the members of this council will not be surprised to see many of the issues on this list. I know DPD staff was happy to see this list as it came together because it includes many of the things that we're already working on. And it's nice to know that much of our existing work is consistent with the desires of our community. So what you're seeing on this screen is just a snapshot of some of the items that each of the chapters includes. Each of these topics presented on the last slide was essentially get their own section of the plan, which will include more detailed specifics. I've pulled examples to give you all a sense of the types of goals and action items you'll find in the plan and how it's being presented. So you'll notice that each of the main topics is color-coded, so you'll start to associate certain colors with certain topics, and it'll be easy when you're reviewing the plan to visualize when you've changed topics within the plan. Here you'll see a goal of the land use section. Each goal is presented in a similar way, an explanation of what it is, why it's important, whether this is something the city is just getting started on or if it's something we've been working on, a goal for when this work is going to get underway, and who is charged with leading the work. And as I said previously, DPD isn't going to be the only team working on this. It's a citywide master plan, and it'll take participation from many to accomplish. So in this particular land use category, we have a goal to do a full comprehensive review of our zoning. The last comprehensive review of the city's zoning happened over 20 years ago. And so this is a great example of something that DPD will be taking on after this master planning process is complete. Without this process, I'm not sure this would have been so high on our to-do list at this point. So for this particular goal, one of the first concrete steps DPD staff will take will be to review projects that have come in front of the land use boards and assess the variances being requested and granted. Understanding these two data points will show us where existing zoning is conflicting with potential development in the city, and it's a great starting off point for us in this work. So next, in housing, here's another example of something that the council has discussed many times that also came up during our community planning process. As discussions about ways to create more affordable housing have come up, so has the issue of creating an affordable housing trust fund. And this is something that DPD and the city manager's office are already having conversations about. And the next step in this work is to gather best practices from communities across the Commonwealth that already have existing trust funds. And with that in mind, we have already reached out to several communities to start those initial conversations. Under the mobility category, I picked these goals and action items to give you an example of some of the items where the city and community partners will need to work together. Yes, the city, of course, can impact and improve mobility by doing road and sidewalk projects, but we will never run a bus system. And so we will have to work with our community partners in the LRTA to improve mobility within the city. These economic development goals and action items are all things that we're actually already doing. But in order to see progress, we need to expand this work. I think this is a great example that not everything that's in this master plan has to be a brand new idea. Sometimes the things we're doing are the right things, and we just need to stay the course and continue to make an impact. We need to keep pushing ourselves to be consistent with our efforts. Our successful pop-up retail location on Market Street will continue to have small vendors rotating throughout the year, and our economic development staff will work to connect the small retailers to additional technical assistance and hopefully help them graduate into other locations within the city. It's about building off the things that we are doing and showing those positive impacts. Looking at energy, climate, and the environment section, the state of Massachusetts set a goal to reach carbon neutrality by 2050 back in 2001. So this isn't a new idea, but the goal is still relevant and still important to the community. The city created the sustainability last fiscal year as an initial step in our continuing commitment to sustainability, but there's more to do. And so pulling ongoing long-term projects into this plan ensures that they remain a community priority and that we have ways to continuously track their progress over time. One of the exciting steps being taken in this area is related to solar arrays on our municipal buildings, and we're going to be hearing more from our sustainability team regarding this work in the very near future. Looking at parks, open spaces, and trails, I think these particular goals give us a great idea that show us that a lot of parties are involved in achieving the desired goals. So yes, of course, we have a parks department, and yes, of course, that parks department is charged with the maintenance of parks, But DPD plays a role in how we design those parks. And engineering plays a role because it's their roadway and sidewalk projects that make it possible for people to get to our parks. And so this plan doesn't just take the topics and put them with the obvious choice. It takes the time to really think about the ways that we all have a stake in these goals and action items and gives us each that responsibility. A fantastic project we completed this year that really set a new bar for equitable investment in our open spaces is in partnership with the city's Disability Commission. This year, the city installed AAC boards at all of our playgrounds. We're also working hard to replace all the mulch at our playgrounds with poured rubber surfacing to increase accessibility. And significantly more of that park work is coming in this year. I picked this particular goal in the arts and culture section to show that some of the major topics in this plan bleed into one another. Arts and culture is, of course, important to Lowell. And while the experience of visitors is important, the absolute truth is that Lowell having a successful arts and cultural scene is good for the city's economic development. And it's interconnected. And because of that, DPD's economic development team is going to work on this just as much as CASE and the city's artist community. So we've already rolled out changes to many of our long-standing events. We just had a very successful Winterfest that came back to the heart of downtown, and these efforts to reimagine our arts and cultural events will continue in the coming year. So I know that was a lot, but this is a big plan, and I want to talk about sort of, now that we have this plan, what's next. This plan isn't just goals and action items and fancy photos. Lowell Forward focuses a lot on implementation. The team worked hard to ensure that the work identified in this plan is both achievable, but a bit of a stretch. It's not much of a goal if it's easy to achieve. And so in order to ensure that we can take this plan and show the community what we've accomplished, we've included a number of quantitative metrics that we can track over time. So this is a snapshot of one of the economic development sections to give you a feel of what the matrix in the plan is going to look like. Each goal has a matrix, and it's also color-coded. Each sheet will have an additional column at the end where whoever is the responsible party for that particular action item will be able to track its progress. In this example, it won't be DPD saying, we've reduced vacancy in Lowell. That's too generic. We're going to drill down and be able to provide information like we've decreased vacancy by this percentage, or we've provided this much funding for this many small businesses in the community. And we're going to try to do that with each of the action items to be as specific as possible. DPD will work closely with the manager's office on the management of this matrix, but it won't just live in the spreadsheet. So as the city manager previously stated, this is a living document, and that means that you'll be hearing about it quite a lot. The plan after today is that on a rotating basis, this council is going to hear from department heads roughly every 6 months, where we're going to bring forward updates on major projects. We'll highlight areas within the master plan that these projects are helping us address, and we'll discuss with this council and the public the progress we're making and any roadblocks we may have hit. So for example, I'm here tonight, and I'll be back again sometime in August, probably with an update on our comprehensive zoning review. So not only will these informationals keep the council and the community more up to date on major projects being taken on by departments, but it'll be a regular opportunity to track the progress of the plan. If Lowell Forward is the vision for Lowell's future, then we need to start taking action today to make that future possible. I'm really hopeful that we have set ourselves up here to achieve great things. And although the manager started us off by thanking the team, I need to take another opportunity to really thank the staff in DPD for making this plan possible. It was their hard work and vision that led us here today. And I want to take a moment in particular to thank project manager Francesca Sigliano. This was Fran's first major project that she managed from start to finish, and I've been so impressed with her hard work. I also want to thank the many departments across the city that helped review sections of the plan that were relevant to them. And of course, this plan would not exist if not for our neighbors and friends taking time out of their lives to participate and have their voices heard. I'm so grateful for everyone who responded to a survey, came to a public meeting, voted with a sticker on a poster board at a public event, All of your feedback was valuable, and we can't thank you enough for being generous with your time. And to members of the steering committee, thank you. We have not relied on a steering committee like this in quite some time, and honestly, I was a little nervous when we were starting to pull it together because I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it's been such an important part of the creation of this plan. And I want to thank each of the members of the committee for their time, and a special thank you to the 2 representatives from the City Council who were on the steering committee, Councilors Mercier and Councilor Janess. And a final thank you to the city manager for his support in this process. A master plan that does not have the full support of an administration will never achieve its goals. Knowing that the manager is supportive of this plan and has already laid the groundwork for the entire leadership team regarding how this plan will continue to guide us moving forward means that we have a lot of very exciting work ahead of us.